So, Peter, without any further ado, and I'm sure you would like me to give you further ado, but I won't.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. Oh, we're going to have fun today. Ken, that intro really took me back and shocked me coming from you. And I want to thank you for it. I sent Ken an intro. He didn't refer to it at all.
I know the truth.
There's a lot more to me than what he told you, but we'll just skip that right now. But I tell you, it is an honor to be here this morning, and I'd like to just cover with you a few of my objectives. By the way, it's really nice to talk to a group that doesn't have earphones coming out, like I saw this morning coming over here. I guess none of you walk the streets or anything of Chicago. I'll keep on going. I'm going to talk to you today about my favorite subject. A great marketing tool, a great sales tool, and a great tool for business owners, and that's exit planning. So some of the subjects we're going to cover today, I'm going to show you and tell you about how I got into exit planning. I'm going to tell you what's going on today in the marketplace and what the future looks like for some of the business owners. And then I'm going to talk to you about why business owners should have an exit plan and why they don't have an exit plan. And then I'm going to wrap up and summarize everything I told you. And feel free to take any notes while I'm talking. I do have a couple of rules. I got my phone turned off. I always make a pledge to the people I speak to that I won't text during my presentation. That fair? So as Barry puts his phone away, he has made the same commitment back to me that he won't text during the presentation. And the nice thing is I like to walk in the audience, and if I see some smartass that's not paying attention to what I'm talking about, I point them out in a very indirect way. Okay, one last rule is that I don't want you to get done listening before I get done talking. Is that a fair deal? Huh? Okay. Let's talk about how I got involved in exit planning. You'd like to know about this, wouldn't you, Sandy? As Ken said, after 17 years of corporate life with Ford Motor Company and Xerox, I got involved in investment banking and did real well. We always sold our clients' companies for the greatest value. And then in the year 2000, I woke up one morning and had an epiphany. Now, for somebody my age to wake up and have an epiphany is really something, okay? You got to appreciate it as you get older. And I thought to myself, I know I'm selling our clients' companies for the greatest value because we ran one of the best auction processes around. But I said, I wonder if I'm hitting their goals and objectives. And the answer came back to me, no, we weren't. You know why? We're focused on a transaction. We didn't have any goals and objectives. We were out to get the greatest value we could for the business, and everybody was focused on that. And I thought a little further, and I said, I know our clients are paying too much in taxes because there's no tax planning. I wasn't sure the money was going where it should be going because there's no estate planning. Good afternoon. Come on in. No estate planning. No financial planning. So it dawns on me that all the planning is taking place after a liquidity event instead of before the liquidity event, when it can give the greatest benefit to the owners. Has everybody got that? Because I'll tell you what, the problem is we're still doing that today. I see some of you nodding your heads. Exit planning changes all of that. Exit planning gets you in early. Exit planning allows the owner to get all and achieve all the benefits of pre-planning instead of post-planning. And some of you lawyers and financial advisors, pay attention, because this is going to be a great program for you. All right. So I came up with that idea, and what I did was I developed, and you're looking at the oldest, as Ken pointed out, and he always points out, the oldest, but the original exit planning coach and mentor. I developed an exit planning process that we beta tested on 3 companies, and it went well. We then included it in our business model, and that went well. And then it went so well we decided we're going to write a book on it. And I don't know if you ever heard of the book, The $10 Trillion Opportunity, but it is really a very basic book on exit planning, and it talks about the 10 trillion comes from the fact that the baby boomers are coming into the market, and that's the amount of wealth that's forecasted to change hands in the next 10 to 15 years because of the baby boomers coming in the market. So that went well. So in 2006, we decided we're going to expand. We got to expand exit planning. So we started a firm called the Exit Planning Institute. And that firm is chartered with training and certifying business advisors like you in exit planning. Twice a year at the Gleacher Center, usually in April and November, people from all over the world come in for a 5-day training session. And on the 5th day, they take a 150-question proctored exam. And if they pass that exam, they become a CEPA, Certified Exit Planning Advisor. And since 2006, we've trained and certified people from Mexico, Canada, United States, United Kingdom, Germany, and Australia. And one person from the north side of Chicago, Barry, sitting right here. Barry is a CEPA, so treat him with a lot of respect and ask him a lot of questions afterward. So that went real well, and then in the 4th quarter of this last year, we sold the Exit Planning Institute to a group in Cleveland that has more resources and more energy to move it forward internationally. Now, I'm still on the board of directors. I'm still very active in teaching it and everything else like that. And I'm kind of the Colonel Sanders of the firm. So what else am I doing in my spare time? I'm going around the country talking about exit planning. I was just in Palm Desert, California last week talking, and by the way, it's cool there. There's only 110 in the shade talking to Cetera, their people, about exit planning.
But it's dry heat.
But it's dry heat, right? That's what they tell you. With 100 and some odd golf courses that they're irrigating every day, yeah, it's really dry heat. And the second thing I'm doing is I'm mentoring business owners through the exit planning process from beginning to end. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm going to expose you, excuse the expression, to some of the processes. Okay, that's how I got into it, but what's going on today? I'm going to quote you some statistics that I know you're going to want to take down. Because they, and you know who they are? They are firms like Price Waterhouse, Mass Mutual, SBA, and so forth. So here's what's going on today. They tell us that the average business owner has 90% of their net worth tied up in their company. The average business owner has 90% of their net worth tied up in their company. Who's a financial advisor? Is that a good deal to have 90% of your net worth tied up in one entity?
No.
Boy, I'm glad you said that. You could have screwed up my whole presentation.
I'm here to help you, Peter.
Of course it's not. It's a big risk. Okay? Now, on the other hand, they tell us that 1 out of 2 companies are going to change ownership in the next 10 to 15 years because of why? Age, you're close. What else? Huh? Retirement. By whom? CEO, yeah. But how about the baby boomers? 1 out of 2 companies going to change ownership in the next 10 to 15 years because of the influence of the baby boomers. So you got, on the one hand, a great deal of financial risk, and on the other hand, you're going to have all this activity coming up in the marketplace. Now, if the private business owners, advisors were aware of this, they would be preparing them for these 2 events, right? Right? Listen to these stats. 75% of the business owners out there don't have an exit plan. Only 25% have done anything about their own personal planning. Financial planning, estate planning, tax planning. I can't tell you how many times I've called on a business owner running multi-million-dollar corporations that don't even have wills. It's pathetic.
No insurance.
Yet they got advisors, they got accountants, they got attorneys. What are these people talking to them about? I don't know. Last 2 stats. 75% of the business owners who sell their business now are unhappy after they sell. Why? Poor planning or no planning. It's just amazing. Ken and I can tell you stories about how these guys go into the sale process with little preparation, and the money they leave on the table, and it's pathetic. Talking about being pathetic, besides me, talk about being pathetic, 80% of the business owners who put their companies up for sale, 80% who put their companies up for sale don't sell. 8 out of 10 companies who put themselves up for sale don't sell and cash in on their many years of hard work. Now, to back up what I just said, has anybody ever heard of Rob Slee? If you have, raise your hand. Barry has. Of course, Ken has. Rob is an author, investment banker, and recognized as the country's foremost authority on the capitalization and financial management of privately owned companies. He's got a website, I think it's called Midas Nation, if you ever want to find out more about this subject. But he also puts out a weekly newsletter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quote to you from his April 30th newsletter. Will you bear with me while I read this to you? Because you got to listen to this, because this is what you got to talk to your business owner clients, to your prospects about, because this really describes the problem happening today. The clear majority of private companies in the US and Europe are not creating shareholder value, meaning the owners do not even have value creation as a goal. Rather, these unperforming owners view the achievement of a good lifestyle as the primary goal of owning and managing a business. I know none of you have clients like that. The lack of value creations in our private business sector is negatively impacting America's economy in many profound ways. Most middle market business owners do not know that their company's cost of capital is 20 to 30%, nor do they care. In short, cost of capital is the effective cost of operating a business. From an investor's perspective, it's the rate of return required to make an investment in the business. Private business owners must make returns greater than 20 to 30% each year just to cover the cost of ownership and the risk of ownership. Therefore, value creation occurs when returns on investment are greater than 20 to 30%. 80 to 90% of business owners are not meeting this standard, meaning they're not creating value in their business. So, what happens when a company does not generate returns greater than its cost of capital? Such a company loses value in the eyes of the market. If it goes enough years without generating high enough returns on investment, listen to this phrase, this is a new one for you maybe, the value gap grows. Now what's the value gap? The value gap is the difference between what owners want and need the value of the business to be versus what the market says it's worth. The longer the period a company goes without covering its cost of capital, the larger the value gap. Eventually, it's likely that such companies will have so little value, they'll just have to be shut down. That's why roughly 80 to 90% of the companies in the U.S. cannot be sold for anywhere near the value the owners need or think they're worth. From my experience, and I know Ken will agree with me, very rarely do you walk in to a business owner and ask him what he thinks he could get for his business. Does he come up with a figure realistic in the first place? But it's always a figure that you know from your experience is much higher than the market. So we've got to educate the business owner out there. We've got to get them to act. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we've got to educate them. So there is a process. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a process to get this number down from 80% to 60%, hopefully 50%. And that's exit planning. So, why should business owners have an exit plan? I tell you what, 2008 really took a lot out of business owners because a lot of experienced business owners hadn't seen anything like 2008. But what's the main reason business owners should have an exit plan? Main reason. I've given you a lot so far, but what's the main reason? What do you think? Come on, put your thinking caps on.
Peace of mind.
Huh?
Peace of mind.
No. Good try, though.
It's organization. I mean, you have you plot it out.
I'm sorry?
Organization, and just plotting out, knowing what steps need to go, where you need to go from A to Z.
You think that's not it. Good try, though. The main reason is, believe it or not, business owners are human. Not your boss, right? Business owners are human. You know, none of us have a guarantee that we're going to be around tomorrow, next month, next year. They're human. That separates them from public companies. They've got to realize they've got responsibilities to their family, their employees, their customers, their vendors, themselves, and their legacy. You know, it doesn't make any difference if you got 10 employees or 500 employees or thousands of employees. All those families depend on that owner and that owner being successful and his company being successful. It's a lot of responsibility. There's also another thing happening. People are going to be living a lot longer, unfortunately or fortunately, than they planned for. I want you to do something. No one's going to look. But write down your age. No one's going to look. I know some of you are real sensitive about that. Write down your age and then think of somebody in your family who's the oldest, whether they live the longest, whether they're deceased or still living. Subtract your age from that number. In my case, you're not going to believe this, I got 25 years to go. Of course, with my lifestyle, I got 2. But what's some of the numbers you're coming up with? 19, you're okay. 50. 35. Come on, any other high number? Anybody beat 50? 65. Wow. 65 years that you've got a plan for, and these business owners have probably got numbers similar to what we're talking about, right? They gotta have at least 25, maybe 50, you know. And they're not planning, they're gonna need financial, we call it, Ken and I, the older people in the room, call it life's third act. You got to get ready for life's third act. You're gonna have to have the financial resources for a quality of life. You're gonna want fewer responsibilities. You want the freedom to be active, not retired. You want the ability to work on new and exciting projects. You want more exercise for that quality of life. There's a book out called Younger Next Year, which is a great book. If any of you, I would really recommend it. We're going to have to exercise 6 days a week to have a quality of life. Did you hear that, Ken? Different eating habits for that life. So they're human, and they're also going to got to get ready for that third act. Okay. So why don't they have an exit plan? Denial. It's a choice. Denial? Huh?
Too busy.
I'm sorry?
Too busy.
Too busy.
And really not being educated. What I find when I go in is the importance to having a plan.
Uneducated in this regard.
Internal conflict.
Internal conflict that they don't want to address. People love to face problems head on, don't they? I mean, that's human nature. I choose to hit this problem head on. Did I hear something over here?
Fear of losing control.
Fear of losing control. Yep. You know the biggest one? Why don't they have an exit plan?
Fear. Fear.
You're close.
They don't think they're going to exit.
No, a lot of them think, you know what? A lot of them think it's not a matter of when I die, it's a matter of if I die. I'll give you a hint. It's on the board.
Uncertainty?
I'll give you a hint. It's on the slide.
Confidentiality.
Oh, you got it. You got it. Confidentiality. You know what? When they don't want anybody to know they're thinking about exit planning. They want the employees to know, any of the customers to know. They're just, when I used to belong to Crystal Lake Country Club, a member would call me. So let's get together for lunch. Now, I don't like this person, okay? But he knows I was in the investment banking business. So Crystal Lake, you know, is way up northwest. He'd want to meet in the city, and he owned a business. Now, I know I'm not the brightest thing in the world, but I knew what he wanted to talk about. He wanted to talk about selling his business. But we couldn't have lunch anywhere around Crystal Lake. We don't want the rumor out because of confidentiality. You know what? Don't he or she, don't they know that their employees know they're working for a privately held business that's owned by them? And they're wondering, what's going to happen in my career if you get hit by that proverbial truck? They got to think. We got to wake them up. We got to get them out of that 80% and down to 60% or 50%. Okay, another reason why they grew up in families and environments where family just didn't talk about money, feelings, and etc. It just, no huggy, no crying, none of that stuff because I am macho or I'm a strong lady. We want business owners to get their act together now. If you don't pick up anything else from my talk today, but I really want to thank you. I haven't found anybody with their eyes closed yet. Here's the foundation for exit planning on this slide. You paying attention? It's right here on this slide. Okay. On this slide. What I want you to do is visualize a three-legged stool, and the seat is a 100% completed exit plan. One of the legs of that stool is the owner has done everything to maximize the value of the business. Okay? Got to develop that leg. Second leg of the stool to get developed is to get planned personally and working with their advisors, financially, estate planning, and tax-wise. That's the second leg of the stool. And of course, we do all of this before the liquidity event, but that's what we're talking about, this exit plan. The third leg of the stool is what I call to attack the soft issues, and come up with a life plan on what they're going to do after they exit their business. Because if they don't know what they're going to do after they exit the business, it ain't going to happen. And it's not going to happen correctly. All the planning you do, not going to work. Just like a stool, if those three legs are fully developed, it's going to be purely functional and strong. If those three legs aren't fully developed, we're going to have a non-functional, wobbly stool. You with me? Okay. If you don't pick up anything else in the next 2.5 hours, be sure and put that down. Thank you for paying attention there. First, a good exit plan begins with a written expression, and I underline written expression, of the owner's future business and personal goals and objectives. I know it sounds basic, but this is the first step of a good exit plan. The plan revolves around these objectives. Isn't it stupid to have a plan that doesn't include your goals and objectives, what you want to achieve for the rest of your life? So this is what it revolves around. Next step is build a team. The base team might be an exit planner, estate planning, tax attorney, the accountant. Yes, Sandy.
That first step seems like a huge hurdle.
Yeah.
To get someone to sit down and think about it. So
Yeah.
what do you do to actually have them write down their...
You, as an exit planner, work with them on that. And what you do is you just ask them questions and listen. Isn't there something that you've always wanted to do? You know, and you know enough about them. Are they active in their church, for instance? Are they, what else? Are there other things that you want to do? You know, you're going to have about 30, 45, 50 more years to live. You ask them questions. You keep on asking questions. And you don't, you know what? You don't let them BS you. Because they've been BSing themselves when they look in that mirror. And a good advisor, a good exit planning person say, you know what, Charlie? You're not, that's counter to what you've been telling me. Do you really mean that? Stop and think about it. When's the last time you sat down and had a heart-to-heart conversation with somebody about your life? I loved your expression. It's been a while, huh? Anybody ever ask you, you know, where you want to be in 5 years? How's things? How's things with the family? That are real, sincere, and they've taken the time to listen to you? It's a lost art. And these business owners are sitting on top of that mountain. They got nobody to talk to. Everyone kisses their ass, including their advisors. Because the accountants are afraid of losing them as a client. And the lawyer doesn't, except with some exceptions, doesn't know to ask the questions because he's got too much on his own plate or her own plate. You gotta sit down with these people. They need you. They may be part of that 80%. They need you. Did I answer your question? See, now you know why I never asked Ken what time it is, because he builds a watch too. Other exit planning activities and decisions that are in the process, and I'm not going to go through the whole process, but if you're going to maximize the value of the business, you got to find out what the business is worth. So you got to have a business valuation performed, and that valuation should be performed just like a buyer would take a look at the company. You put it under a microscope, and we have in our practice, we've identified 54 what we call buyer value factors that are affecting the value of the business up or value of the business down. That's part of the analysis you go through to build that one leg of the stool to maximize the value of the business. You got to decide on the exit options. There are 8 exit options for a business owner. You got to narrow it down to the 1 or 2 or 3 options that meet their goals and objectives. And the reason you got to discuss the exit options with them is because each option, whether it's ESOP, sale, succession, what have you, has a different value. So that affects the planning. You got to execute a value enhancement plan. Maybe you have to do that, a value enhancement plan to attack that value gap. Remember I talked to you about the value gap? Well, a way to overcome it is to identify the things that are dragging the business down in value and develop a value enhancement plan to close that gap. Personal planners got to come up with personal financial plans, attorneys, estate plans, tax plans, and then you implement your exit plan with the team, and each member of the team fulfilling their responsibility. Okay, there's the activities, and the process takes about the shortest period of time someone can get ready is a year. And I've only seen that happen once. I would say 2 to 3 years minimum to get a business ready to perform those 3 legs of the stool that I talked to you about. That's what you want to achieve with an exit plan. If you want to get educated further on this subject, there are 4 books I really recommend. Built to Sell by John Warlow. Anybody read it? Well, we need some help on exit planning. This is a great book for service companies. If you've got any clients that own a service business, and in accountants and lawyers and so forth, your own business service, Built to Sell is great. For family businesses, Every Family's Business by Thomas William Dean is an excellent book for family businesses. For value enhancement, you can't beat our old friend Michael Gerber and the E-Myth Revisited. And then the last book I recommend, it was written by just 2 exceptional people, is A $10 Trillion Opportunity. And all these books are available at Amazon.com. Okay, what can you do with a business owner? Goes back to what Sandy was talking about earlier. Even though you're not exit planner, you can identify, as an advisor, identify those people that need help in exit planning. How can you do it? Come up with about 10 questions. Script it, because you'll forget it if you don't script it. Script it and come up with about 10 questions in each one of these 3 categories. Business. What's one of the questions you come up with? Ask the business owner. When you're sitting down, hey, let's have lunch and let's have a little heart-to-heart. I want to talk to you. It's been a long time since we sat down and talked with each other. So what's a business question you can ask them, Ryan? It's not on the board.
It's not on the board?
I gave you that hint.
Ask what the performance of the business look like what they're expecting for the next quarter, year.
Okay.
So
So how's the forecast? How does the future look for the business? And then you grimace when he said, "Oh, you're really going to be in trouble." No, you don't do that. What other business question can you ask?
Are you still happy running your business?
Are you still happy running the business? You've been doing it for 65 years, Charlie. Are you still happy? Great question. And now be honest with me. Are you still happy?
Who's going to take it over?
Yeah, what happens? Who's going to take it over if you get hit by that proverbial truck? What training have they had? What preparation have they had? There's a lot of questions you can, and boy, you know what? The more questions you pepper them with and you listen to them, the smarter you get in their eyes. Because no one else is doing it. No other advisor's doing that and taking the time to do it. Any other questions about this? This is how you can get started in exit planning. Now, what are some benefits to exit planning? Well, the people we've worked with, this is what we found out. The owner feels like they're back in control of their future. There's a preservation of lifestyle benefits. Company continuity and the maximization of its future is ensured. Remember I mentioned earlier that the employees, the customers, they all know you're a privately held business. They all know you're human, and so forth. The future's secured with exit planning. Family stability is better with a plan in place. It maximizes the company's net value. There's more benefits. It achieves employee and management stability, because I tell you what, if you do an exit plan the right way, you don't keep it a secret. You let those managers know what you're planning, because they've got a career path that they want to know how secure that is. Okay, so you get stability from the employees and management team. Puts new energy and motivation in the company, because I tell you what, another thing to detect somebody that's ready for exit planning, their personality sucks. I mean, they're like the people that get off these trains and buses coming in here this morning. Do you ever see so many people happy to go to work? Huh? When you get off a train or a bus, it's pathetic. I mean, I stopped one person and said, "Do you have any razor blades?" And I'm thinking, what kind of life do you have back there in Crystal Lake or Hinsdale or wherever you're from? You must have, it's a hell of a way to live. And there are more. Now, we all have dreams, and I want to share a couple of my dreams with you. And I know everyone loves this term. In conclusion, yeah, I'm winding down. And we'll open it to a few questions and so forth. My dream is that all business owners will gain control of their personal lives and their futures while they're still able to. I'm going to read, because I'm kind of the fatherly person and so forth. I'm going to read you one more thing that I want you to take out to your clients and your prospects, because I think this really puts things in perspective of what I've been talking about. By the way, one other thing before I read this. If you think you can't get personal with a business owner, you get out of the business you're in. Because their personal life affects their business life, and their business life affects their personal life. And if you can't get personal, if you don't have it in you to ask those deep drilled questions, get out. You're in the wrong business. Think about this. Anybody ever hear of Michael Josephson? Any of you ever read? Look, Google Michael Josephson sometime. He wrote What Will Matter. Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There'll be no more sunrises, no minutes, no hours and days. All the things you collected, whether treasure or forgotten, will pass to somebody else. Your wealth, fame, and temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you owed. Your grudges, your resentments, your frustrations, your jealousies will finally disappear. So too your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks you lived on. It won't matter whether you were beautiful or brilliant. Even your gender and skin color will be irrelevant. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success. Listen to this line. Not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched or empowered or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many people feel a lasting loss when you're gone. Well, what will matter is not your memories, but the memories of those who loved you. What will matter is how long you will be remembered, by whom and for what. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not on the board. It's not a matter of circumstance, but a matter of choice. Choose to have a life that matters. And I'll tell you, the people I've worked with that are business owners do want to choose a life that matters. And all they need is a good advisor to take them by the hand and lead them on the path. And one way you can do it is through exit planning. So I'll tell you what, my second dream is that I want to see, before I leave here, exit planning taught in the business schools, because it should become a best business practice, just like strategic planning is, business planning is, and so forth. And my last dream is that you've been a terrific audience. Nobody has fallen asleep. My last dream is that you've enjoyed this presentation as much as I've enjoyed giving it to you, because you've been great. Thank you very much. I think we got a few minutes for any questions on what I've said. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Give it to me.
Have you ever had a client that just didn't get it when you had that conversation? Besides maybe firing the client, what did you do to make them understand that this is an important part of planning?
I screamed. I yelled at him, called him a no-good SOB, selfish, pig, what have you. Didn't do any good. The one thing you know as you get older, you can't change everybody. You can't get through to everybody, because I'll tell you what, some people are so selfish they don't give a shit. So don't try to change the world. But if you can change 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, even 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, you might be leading the American League in batting.
Just in sort of partial response to that question, I found that a lot of the times in family enterprises, you can get to beyond that hurdle by getting back to the values proposition, not just the business values, but the family proposition. Because at least where family enterprise is concerned, a lot of these companies are owned not just by the person you're talking to, but there are multiple family shareholders. And the whole object, at least for my clients, is to get through the process not only successfully, but preserving family cohesion. And that's a very, very important thing, again, in my practice. And one of the things that I would suggest in your 3 goals of exit planning in addressing the soft issues, you've got to find out what the underlying family dynamics are and how they play into, both the decision in exit planning and the ultimate result.
Correct. And you do what you just said by asking the questions and then listening.
That's right. You got to ask the questions.
Asking the questions, listening. Steve.
Peter, I think it's, whether it's a business owner or a client on the corporate side or anything, you have to get to what's important to that individual. And if they won't have frank, honest dialogue with you, then they're just not a good client, and you need to recognize that as fast as you can and just realize what you're dealing with and basically walk away, disengage. Find the people who want your help, because I think you're right. Some people, you just, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you're just not going to get through to them.
When I'm called in on with somebody's either referred to me or what have you, one of the things I love to do is I love to educate business owners in this process, whether they use me to mentor them or what have you. But I tell you, you can find out a lot about them on these private conversations and asking those questions, and you can qualify whether you want to do business with them or not do business with them. And there's nothing wrong with walking away from business either. Because I tell you what, we've all been through it. You're not going to get paid. You're not going to be appreciated. I want to do business with people that appreciate me. Like this guy here, I haven't seen him in about a year, right? But you came over to this presentation, and I'm glad you did. It's nice to be appreciated. I appreciate you coming.
I appreciate it.
Any other question? Yeah.
One of the things that we do, I'm on the banking side and more on the business side, but
Yep.
we work as a team with the lawyers and the accountants and private banks. And he's absolutely right. When you sit down and you talk, or we call it profiling client, talk to them and find out what they want. When we run into what we call the me, it's all about me, then we focus on me and we say, hey, this is what you can get out of it, you can get out of it. And then structuring, kind of where his family, but we do focus. We get those folks who say, well, what am I going to get out of it? So we focus on the me, we work the numbers around the me, and then build the rest of the plan around me.
One of the, talking about me, one of the first things that when you sit down with a business owner the first time, he's all concerned about motherhood and apple pie. I want to take care of, you heard this one, my employees. Then you start talking about valuation and so forth. Screw the employees. I want the most money I can get. I mean, you got to get through that, filter through that stuff. Any other questions I can help? Yes, sir.
I figured it was only right that I asked
I'm sorry?
a question. I said I figured it was only right that I asked a tough
Especially when there's nothing on the board. Yeah, exactly. Ryan, you've been a great sport.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're not going to be successful, but you've been a great support.
He's got a question. He's got a question.
So, now my question.
Yeah.
One of the roadblocks that I've run into with clients, and especially in today's, financial environment, with business owners that are financially savvy but may operate under the assumption that they can grow their business at a 5% clip and run their business in perpetuity. When you're trying to convince a business owner to start looking at a sale or start their exit planning process, how do you answer the question, well, yes, you can get me X number of dollars for my business, but where do I put the money such that it returns the exact amount that I'm taking out of the business?
That is such a cop-out. What about the risk of owning that business?
And it's
What about that risk of owning the business? What happens to you if you get hit by that proverbial truck?
Right.
What is he the business? Is he 80, 90%, 70% of the business and so forth? That's bullshit.
But if they're operating under the assumption.
Excuse me, ladies. I'm sorry, but I am a sailor and I am old school. But no, I hear that, and I hear advisors get stuck with it. What can he do to go out and invest his business and get a greater return than what he's doing in his business? Well, in a lot of cases he can't. Now he's got to measure what's the risk of staying in that business. Maybe he's part of that 80% that'll never cash in, right? Keep that in mind, what I said earlier about that 80%. Your goal, if I affected you at all today, should be to get these people down to 60, 50% saleable, because I'll tell you what, there's going to be a lot of broken hearts and a lot of families. We're not talking about this in our economy, but this is going to be happening with all these baby boomers coming in the market. Did that help? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I tell my clients, microbreweries, if the business goes bust, at least they've got a lot of beer to drink.
Peter,
Okay, one more question.
Isn't part of the answer to that question on one of the exit options? They don't necessarily need to sell the whole business.
No,
They can sell part of it, they can sell
Sure.
the ESOP, they can do a lot of different things so that they do pull some chips off the table, still stay involved and run the company, but at least they've diversified.
I was going to tell them that, but I just had a feeling you were going to raise your hand and tell them about that option, because it's a great option. We've used it many a time, especially with private equity group. They love to see companies grow and so forth and so on. Anything else? Yes, one more.
I'd be really curious from your perspective. You sit down and you get called in and you're talking about exit strategy, and then there's all the other advisors that are circling around the client, and they all have their own ideas about what the best strategy is. There's a lot of times they're trying to pull the sled, and so you get egos involved. How do you work through all of that? I mean, just some practical advice.
That's really a good question. Screw them. No, no. My approach is, and it may not be, the best approach, but my approach is to try to sell the client first. He's the decision maker. He calls the shots. So that's the first step. Second step is I'll either meet with the other advisors as a team with the client there, or I'll meet with them individually. But I want to let them know that they're not going to lose that relationship with the client, okay? That they're still going to get that space with the client and so forth. But they have a function in this exit planning, and this is what they're responsible for. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to help them coordinate it so that when the plan is implemented, most of the time the plan is sale, that they'll get a chance to manage that liquidity event, which is what they've been wanting to do anyhow. And I will make sure every advisor, if they're competent and capable and so forth, is getting good press on their work on the project. So that's what it is. They're insecure, and I'm gonna make it easy because I'm gonna call the meetings. I'm gonna make sure everyone's available at 2 o'clock on Friday to meet with Joe and so forth and so on. And I'm gonna take all the administrative BS out of their thing. Does that make sense? Okay, Ken, I know you want to talk, and thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all.
Connect, educate, and inspire, and you certainly have educated us to the
Thank you.
basics here without a doubt, but I think you've transcended education with inspiration, and that's truly unique, Peter. And we thank you again, and we probably should very seriously consider having you back here, and so we can go down a little deeper on the subject, because I suspect you would agree